सतनाम श्री वाहिगुरु जीओ। गावै को तान होवै किसै तान, गावै को दात जाने निशान, गावै को गुण वडियाइयां चार, गावै को विद्या विखम विचार, गावै को साज करे तनखे, गावै को जीले फिर दे, गावै को जापै दिसै दूर, गावै को वेखै हादरा दूर, कतना कति न आवे तोट, कत कत कति कोटि कोट कोट, दे दादे लैंदे तक पाहे, जुगा जुगंतर खाही खाहे, हुक्मी हुक्म चलाए राहो, नानक विगसै वे परवाहो, हुक्मी हुक्म चलाए राहो, नानक विगसै वे परवाहो। वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह। गुरु प्यारी साध संगत जी, आप जी धन धन जुगो जुग अटल सतगुरु सच्चे पातशाह साहिब श्री गुरु ग्रंथ साहिब महाराज जी दी पावन पवित्र हजूरी अंदर जुड़ बैठे शाम दे दीवाना विच बच्चियां पासों अमृत रूप कीर्तन सरवण कर रहे सन। We were listening to Kirtan. Now let us just for a little time sit together and, as we've been doing the last couple of days, continue discussing the meanings of Japji Sahib Ji. That Japji Sahib that we read every morning. We're going over the meanings to tell what Satguru Ji means in Bani. Because a lot of times we read Gurbani, we do part, but we don't even know what we're reading, what we're saying, what we're listening to. And up till now, yesterday we discussed, Satguru Ji told us that everything that we see around us was created by God's hukum. Yesterday Satguru Ji explained to us that all of us get whatever we have in life according to God's hukum. According to God's hukum, God command, some are rich, some are poor. According to God's command, some find God, some don't. And that's what Satguru Ji said last time when we went over Japji Sahib's Puri last time. That if we realize that everything that's happening is in God's hukum, God's command, then we won't have any ego left inside of us. We won't be proud of anything. Because we'll realize we're nothing. We'll realize that God is doing everything. Because sometimes what happens in life is we do good things and we get all proud that I did this or I did that. Just like some of you earlier today in the classes, some of the classes heard the Sakhi of Baba Hara Singh and the sacrifices he made. That how in Baba Hara Singh's village there was a battle going on and the village people left the village. But after they left, they remembered one thing. They remembered that we left, we saved ourselves, but we forgot Guru Granth Sahib Ji in the village Gurdwara. We saved our own lives and we left Guru Granth Sahib Ji behind. So how Baba Hara Singh Ji went back. to get Guru Granth Sahib Ji all by himself. He ran into the Gurdwara. All around the Gurdwara there was fighting. He snuck into the Gurdwara. He did Guru Granth Sahib Ji's Sukhasan. He wrapped up Guruji. But when he wanted to go outside, he saw there's nowhere to go. They're surrounded everywhere. So he made a plan. From the second story of the Gurdwara, there's a window that he can use to escape. So he put Guru Granth Sahib Ji on his head, and then he took his hazuriya, this type of cloth that I'm wearing around my neck. He had one. And he wrapped it around his head and he tied a knot under his chin. So Guru Granth Sahib Ji was tied to his head. And now his hands were free. And then he went to that second story window and he threw a rope down, and with his hands that were free, he climbed all the way down. And then after coming down, his hands were still free, he pulled out 2 swords. And while having Guru Granth Sahib Ji tied to his head, he fought his way out of that village and brought Guru Granth Sahib Ji to safety. But the main lesson from this story is now what happens after he brought Guru Granth Sahib Ji back. All the people, they started to say, Baba Hara Singh, you're an amazing Sikh. You're a true Sikh. You did a true seva. You saved Guru Granth Sahib Ji. If it was one of us, what would we do? We would let it go to our head. We would be all proud that I did this. We have an ego. But Baba Hara Singh, you know what he said? He said, the only reason I got out of there alive, I didn't save Guru Granth Sahib Ji. The only reason I even made it alive out of the village, out of the fighting, out of the battle, is because I had Guru Granth Sahib Ji on my head. And Guru Granth Sahib Ji was looking after me. Guru Granth Sahib Ji was saving me. He was so humble, he broke his ego. And that's what we need to do. And in the last 40, that's what Satguru Ji explained to us. That hukum hai andar sab ko, bahar hukum na koye. Nanak hukum je bujhe. Nanak hukum je bujhe, ta home kahe na koye. If we realize that everything's in God's hukum, then we won't have any ego inside of us. And that's what Satguru Ji left off last night, in last 40. And now today's 40, Satguru Ji was asked that everything's in God's hukum, but can you tell us exactly how great God is? Exactly how great is God? Can you put a value on God? Because in this world we see people, we see kings and queens. And by looking at how big of a kingdom they own, how many palaces they have, how big of an army they have, you can estimate, you can guess how good of a king that is, how big of a king that is. In this world, when we see rich people or businessmen, businesswomen, you can look at how many buildings they own, how many houses they own, how many cars they own, what kind of cars they own, and from there you can guess, you can estimate how rich they are. And those Hindu saints, the Hindu Siddhs, they thought that if Guruji can tell us exactly how great is God, can you put a value on God? And in this 40, the third 40 of Japji Sahib Ji, Satguru explains to those people and explains to us that nobody can put a value on God, nobody can say how great God is. Just like there's an ocean, if somebody takes a pot and tries to put all of the water of the ocean into the pot, can they do it? They can't do it. You can't put the entire ocean is so big, a pot is so small. You can't put the entire ocean in one pot. And the same way, God is like an ocean. God is so big, our minds are like a small pot. We can't understand all of God in our mind. We can't fit all of God's greatness in our mind. Satguru explains this to them. And then Satguru also explains this as 40 what? That just like if there was a bucket of water, different people will view that water as different things. One person comes, he or she sees that water, and they think in their mind that this water is something to drink, to quench their thirst. Another person comes up to that same water and sees that water as something that can be used to clean their clothes, to wash their clothes. Another person comes up to that water and sees that water as something that can be used to wash their body, to clean their body. Another person comes up to water and sees water as something that can be used to create electricity. It's the same water, but everybody sees it as different things. And Satguruji says God is the same way. God's greatness is so great, nobody can know all the greatness of God. But whatever side of God, however much somebody's seen of God, that's how great they say God is. But nobody can tell exactly how great God is. See, in this world, if I had to talk about any human being in this world, if anybody had to talk about any human being in this world, you can sum it all up in maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Somebody who's done a lot in their life, at the most in an hour, hour and a half, you can tell everything about that person. But about God, you can't do that. God, you can sit there hours and hours, days and days, and years, and still the greatness of God never finishes. Think about ourselves. If you had to tell your whole life story to somebody, how long would it take? Maybe half an hour, maybe an hour, maybe 2-3 hours, then they know everything about you. But God's greatness, Guruji says, is so great that you can go on for days and years in your entire life and you'll never come to an end of how great God is, of God's greatness. Because Satguruji says one thing about God. They go, Uj apar beant Swami, kaun jane gun tere. That who can know all the greatness of God? Vade kiyan vadiyaiyan. Vade kiyan vadiyaiyan. Kuch kehna na kehna chahiye. That nobody can tell the greatness of God. He's too great. Nobody can know how great God is. And Satguruji explains that in this podi. Satguruji starts off by saying, Gaavai ko Taan, hove kisse Taan. Satguruji in this podi tells us that whatever side of God anybody's seen, that's what they start to praise. They say some people, they sing, Taan means to have power, strength. They sing that God is the most powerful, God is very powerful. They see all the stuff God created in this world. They see that God created the land, the sky, the trees, the mountains, all these animals, and they see all this and they say God is so powerful. He's the one that created all this. And then they say, Gaavai ko Taan, hove kisse Taan. And they say, who else can match God's power? They say that there's nobody as great as God. There's nobody that can do what God has done. But then Satguruji say, other people, Gaavai ko daat jane nisa. Other people, daat means gift. Other people see God's gifts, the gifts that God gives us. And they see them as a nishani. They see it as a symbol. They see the gifts that God gives to us as a symbol of God. What does that mean? Somebody prays to God, God, give me a son, give me a daughter, and God blesses them and gives them a son or daughter. Then they praise God that God is the one that gave me this son. God is the one that gave me this daughter. They see the gift as a symbol of God. God blesses somebody with money, then they say God is the one that blessed me with money. So meaning whatever gift they got, they see God as the giver of that gift. And then they continue on, they go, Gaavai ko Gun vadiyaiyan char. Satguruji says other people, they sing about God's good characteristics. Some people say they sing all day that God loves everybody, that God treats everybody fairly, equally. These are all good characteristics. Some people say that God is a merciful God. So meaning they praise God about His good characteristics. Because Satguruji in this 40 is trying to explain to us that whatever side of God somebody has seen, that's what they sing about God. Then they go, Gaavai ko vidya vikham vichar. Other people, they say God is all wise, all knowledgeable. And that nobody can understand all the wisdom of God. Even if we read all sorts of books and we gain so much knowledge, even still we can't talk about God. God is so wise, God is wisdom. And then Satguruji says other people, they say Gaavai ko saaj kare tan ke. That other people, they say that God is the one who creates our body and God is the one who destroys this body. They remember God as the creator and destroyer. Other people, Gaavai ko ji le fir de. Gaavai ko ji le fir de. They say that God is the one who gives us our soul. God is the one who brings us in this world. Who created our soul. Who created who we are from the inside. He is the one who gives us life and takes it away. And then Satguruji continuing on, they go, Gaavai ko japai disse dur. And then they go, some people, they think that God is really far away, somewhere really, really far away that you can't see. Because those who have never seen God, they say that God's really far away. Sometimes in this world, if somebody goes, oh, you know, I want to meet God, I want to see God. Or my goal in life is I want to meet God. Sometimes people laugh at you. And they go, you can't see God. God is somewhere in a really, really far place. Or God is really far. It's too hard to see God, they say. Because they've never seen God themselves. But on the other side, other people, what do they say? Gaavai ko japai disse dur, Gaavai ko vekhe hadra hadur. Other people say the exact opposite. They say, no, everywhere we look we see God. On one side, some people are saying that God is too far away to see, you can't see Him. But on the other side, other people are saying that everywhere they look they see God. Because whatever anybody has seen, that's what they say. But Bhagat Ravidas ji tells us, Kahe Ravidas haath pehne. Bhagat Ravidas ji says that God is even closer than our hands and our feet. Our hands are right here in front of us. And Bhagat Ravidas ji says God's even closer than our hands. That's how close God is. God is there every single second of our life, wherever you look. It's we don't realize it. We don't see it. One time there's a story, Bhagat Namdev ji, whose Bani is inside Guru Granth Sahib ji. Bhagat Namdev ji used to do a lot of meditation and Simran. And he used to see God inside of every single person. And what happened? One day Bhagat Ravidas ji, Bhagat Namdev ji was about to eat his food. He was going to eat his food, he had his roti and everything ready. And you know what happened? He just finished, it just got cooked. And a dog came. And the dog came and that dog grabbed Bhagat Namdev ji's rotiyas. put it in his mouth and he started to run away. And you know what Bhagat Namdev Ji did? Some people would get mad and yell at that dog. They would scream at that dog. But Bhagat Namdev Ji, he saw God all around him, inside of every single thing. And Bhagat Namdev Ji saw God inside that dog too. So you know what he did? He grabbed some butter and he grabbed some dal and he started to run after that dog. Said, stop, stop. If you're going to have the rotis, have dal with the roti. Those rotis, you know how at home we make rotis and we chopper them, we put butter on the roti. But he never had put butter on the roti yet, so he started to run after the dog, telling him, no, if you're going to eat it, here, let me put butter on it first. Let me chopper it for you. It's because he saw God inside of every single person. And that's how a good Sikh is supposed to be. The Satguru Ji says, Gaavai ko jape disse dur, Gaavai ko vekhe hadra hadur. Some people say that God is really far away. I don't see God. I meet some people who say they don't even believe in God because they don't see Him anywhere. But then there's other people who say God is everywhere. Everywhere they look. All around them. Every single second of their life, God is with them. And then Satguru continues on in this pori. Satguru says what? Kathna kathi na ave tot. Kath kathi koti kot kot. Satguru says that a person can sit down and start to talk about God the same way like I'm sitting here, I'm doing Katha, I'm giving a lecture, I'm speaking. Satguru says a person can sit down and start to talk about God. And they can talk for hours and hours and hours, but still you'll never be able to tell exactly how great God is. God is too great. I can sit here, I can spend all my life doing nothing else but just talking about God. But even then, still I won't be able to tell exactly how great God is. That's what Satguru Ji says. Satguru Ji says, Tera ant na jai lakhya. Nobody can tell how great God is. They go, kya ho kathi kathe kath dekha, main akath na kathna. They're saying, how can I talk about God? God is too great. Just like somebody is deaf. Deaf meaning that they can't speak. Some people, they can't speak. And now if you give that deaf person, you walk up to a deaf person and you give that deaf person something sweet to eat, you give them something to eat, they eat it. And then you ask that person, tell me, did you like it or not? How did it taste? Tell me that. Can that deaf person tell you? That person who can't even speak, how is he going to tell you if he liked the food or not, or how it tasted? The same way Satguru Ji says, nobody can tell how great God is. Those who haven't even realized it, obviously they can't tell it. If nobody's seen God, they can't tell about God. But Satguru Ji says, even those who have seen God and who have understood how great God is, even they can't explain it because they're like that deaf person. God is undescribable. And Satguru Ji says, not just one person. Yeah, if one person talks and talks and talks about God day and night, that person can't tell all the greatness of God. But Satguru Ji says, Kathna kathina tot kat kat kathi koti kot kot. Satguru Ji says, when you look in this world, Satguruji says, look around you. How many different people in this world are talking about God or singing God's praises or saying God is great? But Satguruji says, even if you put all those people together, even all those people put together, all their minds put together, they still can't say how great God is. Right? If we look around and you look at how many different religions there are, Hinduism, Christianity, Sikhism, Islam, Buddhism, Judaism, and many other religions. If you look at Christianity, look at how many churches there are in the world. There's probably hundreds and thousands of Christian churches in the world. And each one of those Christian churches, probably each one of them has at least one pastor, one priest, who gives lectures and talks about God to the Sangat that comes there. So that means there must be hundreds and thousands of Christian priests in the world who talk about God. Then you look at Hinduism, how many Hindu mandirs, how many Hindu temples there are in the world. There's probably thousands of Hindu temples in the world. And each of those Hindu temples has at least one pandit, one priest, whose job it is to be in there and to just talk about God, to tell how great God is to the Sangat. And then you look at Islam, at how many Muslim mosques, masjids there are in the world. And inside of each mosque, each masjid, there's at least one person, Muslim priest, who's talking about God to the Sangat, who does Katha to the Sangat, tells them about how great God is. And then you look at Buddhism, that how many thousands of Buddhist temples there are around the world, and each of them have at least one or two monks in there who are meditating, and they are talking about God. They don't talk about God in the same way as other religions. To them, God is the energy around us. But still, that's just a different name for God. Even them, they have thousands, hundreds and thousands of monks who are preaching. You look at Judaism, they have hundreds and thousands of pastors, priests. And then you look at Sikhism. Look in Sikhi, our own religion. How many gurdwaras must there be in the world? Just here in Ontario, in this Toronto area, there's probably so many gurdwaras. Just in Canada, there's probably so many gurdwaras. But put all the gurdwaras in the world together, there's probably thousands and thousands of gurdwaras. And each of those gurdwaras have at least one Granthi Singh who talks about God. Each of those gurdwaras, some of the bigger ones have Ragi Jathas, have Katha Vachiks who talk about God. That's all their job is, day and night, to tell the people about how great God is, how great God is. But now Satguruji says you take all those people together. You take those hundreds and thousands of Christian priests. You take those thousands of Muslim priests, Hindu priests, Sikh priests, Buddhist priests, Judaism priests. You put them all together, that's so many people. And then on top of that, there's so many TV shows on every country, on all the different religions that are preaching. You bring all those people together. And then there's so many people who are sitting at home, they're not priests. They don't do katha in gurdwaras, they don't speak, but still at home they're always praising God. And Satguruji says if you take all those people and you put them together, and once they're put together, even then, if all those people were put together, Satguruji says, Kathana kathi na ave thot, kath kath kathi koti koti. All those people put together, even then they couldn't tell how great God is. God is too great. God's greatness cannot be told. That's why in Bani there's actually a Shabad. Satguru Ji explains this to us. Satguru Ji says, Kot koti meri arja, pavan piyan apayao. Satguru Ji says that if I live to be millions and millions of years old, imagine that. Most of us, if we're lucky, we get to live 90 years, 100 years. If somebody lives 100 years, we say that person's lucky, or that person has a long life. But Satguru Ji says 100 years, Satguru Ji says, Kot koti meri arja. Satguru Ji says, if my life, if I could live to be millions of years old, Kot koti meri arja, pavan piyan apayao. And Satguru Ji says, if I never had to stop to drink or eat, Satguru Ji says, if my food was just the air, just by breathing if I get full, meaning I never had to stop to eat. And then Satguru Ji says, Chand suraj doye gufa na dekha, supne son na thao. And Satguru Ji says, if I went in a cave and I hid inside that cave, and after hiding inside that cave, I never saw the sun, which is the Suraj, and I never saw the Chand, which is the moon. Meaning I never saw night or day, meaning I always stayed in the cave and I never left the cave. And I never fell asleep. I never had a dream while I'm sleeping, and even while I'm awake, I never daydreamed. Meaning my concentration was so good. Satguru Ji is saying, basically, if I lived to be 1,000,000 years old, and I stayed in a cave for 1,000,000 years, and while staying in that cave for 1,000,000 years, I never took a break. I just kept on meditating and kept on meditating, and I kept on singing how great God is over and over for 1,000,000 years. And I never took a break to eat or drink. And I never fell asleep. And even while awake, I never daydreamed. I always thought about God with full concentration. Then Satguru Ji says, even if I did that, Kot koti meri arja, pavan piyan apayao, chand suraj doye gufa na dekha, supne son na thao, pi teri keemat na pave, ho ke vade akhan. Satguru Ji says, even if I did all that, for 1,000,000 years lived in a cage, never stopped to eat or drink, always focused on God, Satguru Ji says, even then, I couldn't, after 1,000,000 years of remembering God, even then I couldn't tell how great He was. I still couldn't tell how great God was, how great God is. That's how great God is. Then Satguru Ji says, Pankhi hoega je pavan, sat asmani jao. Satguru Ji says, Pankhi is a bird. Satguru Ji says, if I was to turn into a bird, if I was to become a bird, and then I was to fly up in the sky, and I was to fly everywhere and see everything God created. Pankhi hoige je pavan, seh asmani jao, nadre kise na aavu, na kuch piya na khao. And Satguru Ji says, if I turned into a bird and I flew around and I flew so fast that nobody can even see me flying. I flew that fast. And all my life I flew and I never took a break to even drink or eat, Satguru Ji says. And all I did my entire life is I just go and see all the beautiful things God created in this world. All the great things God created, even then if I saw every little thing God created in this world, even then Satguru Ji says, Pi teri keemat na pave, ho ke vade akha. Satguru Ji said that I wouldn't be able to tell how great God is. He's too great. I can't tell His greatness. And then Satguruji says one more thing. Satguruji says, Nanak kagad lakhmana pad pad kiche pao. Pad pad kiche pao. Satguruji says, Masu tot na aavi, lekhan pon chala. Satguruji says that if I read books and books, pages and pages about the greatness of God, and I took a pen, and if I could write as fast as the wind goes so fast. And Satguruji said if I could write as fast as the wind, and I just kept on writing over and over, day and night, the greatness of God, Satguruji says, even then, bhi teri keemat na pavai, o kevade akam na. Even then I couldn't tell how great God is. He's too great. His greatness can't be told. Just like at the beginning I said that nobody can take a pot and fit all the ocean in a pot. The same way, God is like an ocean and nobody can fit all of God inside of their small little puny minds. God's too great. That's what Satguruji is explaining to us in this Pori of Japji Sahib Ji. And then at the ending of this Pori, what does Satguruji say? Well, first Satguruji says, Denda ande lehande tak pahe, juga jugantar khahi khahi. Satguruji says God keeps on giving His gifts. He keeps on giving them to us over and over and over. We don't even have to ask. Sometimes God gives us things without us even asking. An mangya daan devana, kaho nanak sach sambhal jiyo. He keeps on giving. We don't even ask for things He gives to us. That's how great God is. And Satguruji says He gives so many gifts to us that we can't even keep up with them. That He keeps on giving and we get tired of getting God's gifts. But what does that mean? Some people are going to say, I don't get tired of getting gifts. But what it means is He gives so many gifts to us that we don't even have time to appreciate each gift that He gives to us. We don't even have time to think about the gift that God gives to us. We don't even have time to thank God. He gives us one gift. Before we can even thank Him, He gives us the next gift. Look at all the gifts God's given us. This body is a gift given to us by God. All the people we know, friend, family, relatives, is a gift given to us by God. Every single breath is a gift from God. If God decided not to give us our next breath, if we couldn't breathe, our next breath didn't come to us, what would happen? We wouldn't be living anymore. We die right away. Each breath is a gift. And you know what? In this world, somebody lends you even $10, $20, what do? We thank that person. We say thank you. Somebody helps us even a little bit, we thank them. But honestly, if you look at our lives, look at everything God's given to us, this body, our friends, family, relatives, everything God's given to us, how often do we thank God? If we look inside ourselves, when's the last time we've thanked God? We should be thanking God every single second of our life for everything God has given to us. That's the greatness of God. And Satguruji says that He hasn't been doing this just for a few years. He hasn't been doing this just now for us. They go juga jugantar khahi. That from the beginning of time, different people came. Today we're living here. Before us there were other people. They died. Before them there were other people. Before them other people. People come, people go. People are born, people die. But Satguru Ji says God has been giving gifts from the beginning of time to every single person. Even those people who say that there is no God. God is so great, so merciful. Even those people who don't even believe in God. Even those people who sometimes call God names. Get mad at God, but God still keeps on giving them gifts. God still gives them food to eat. That's how great God is. And Satguru Ji tells us, they go, Hukumi hukum chalai raho, nanak vigsai ve parvaho. Satguru Ji says, they came back to hukum. Just like the last two podis, Satguru Ji ended in hukum. Satguru Ji says that just like we discussed in the earlier podiums, that if we realize that everything is in God's hukum, that God is the caretaker, just like I said yesterday, Sinchan hara ek hai mali, khabar kart hai paat pat dali. Just like a caretaker, he knows or she knows exactly every single leaf in the park, how it's supposed to be. The same way God knows every single one of us, God knows what's happening in our life. God is our caretaker. God is looking after us. And that's what Satguru Ji is explaining. And they're saying we should realize this, that whatever path God makes us walk, we're going to walk. We realize everything's in hukum, everything is God's command. We won't have ego. We'll realize we're nothing but puppets. And we realize we have no control. And only when you do that, only then will you have nimarta. You'll have humbleness. You realize you're nothing. Because if we don't realize that, what happens? We think that we're all that. We think that we're everything. We think that there's nobody as good as me. Every person thinks that in their mind. But when you realize everything's in God's hukum, everything's in God's command, then you won't think that way. And then what will happen? You'll live in this world. Vipravaho means you live careless, worry-free. God is careless. God is worry-free. God does not worry about anything. God is so great. If all of us got together and started to praise God, that doesn't make God any bigger. But at the same time, if all of us stopped believing in God and started to call God names, that doesn't make God any less. God is the same. God is careless. God is worry-free. And Satguru Ji says, if we start to believe in that God with full faith, we remember that God day and night with every single breath we take. Uthat baitat sobat jagat, saas har japat. Every single breath you take, remember that God. And then you realize everything's in God's hukum, everything's in God's command, and then you'll become worry-free too. You'll become careless too. Because right now, we think that we're holding everything. We think, if I don't go here, if I don't do this, who's going to do that? Who's going to do this? Sometimes even in Gurdwaras we see people, oh, if I'm not there, how's the program going to run? Or if I'm not there, who's going to do the seva? But then we need to think, before you came to the Gurdwara, who was doing the seva before? Somebody was doing it. And when you leave, you're going to die, Guruji will get somebody else. It's once we realize that everything's in God's command, God is the real person looking after everything, then we'll become worry-free. We'll become careless. Because one thing, people in this world that are rich, they're still stressed out. They got all these worries. They can't even fall asleep at nighttime. They're worried about this, they're worried about that. But then you look at those Gursikhs who day and night do Simran and Bhakti and remember God, they're worry-free, stress-free. They fall asleep while they're doing Simran. They fall asleep while they're sitting in Sangat. They fall asleep at nighttime right away. They're stress-free, worry-free, carefree. Just like Bhagat Tanna Ji. We all know the Sakhi about how with Bhagat Annaji, he was bola, he was gullible, nighttime came, some saints, some holy people came to Bhagat Sahanji's house. He started to talk to them. Then they got together and they started to remember God, sing God's praises, do Simran all night. All night went by and the morning came. It was time for him to go to work. And he never even went to work. He just kept on remembering God. He just kept on doing Simran with those holy people, with those people of God. And what happened? God Himself came and filled in the duty for Bhagat Sahanji. Those who remember God, they become carefree because God is already there day and night looking after us. We just don't realize it. Bhagat Kabir ji, what happened to him? There's so many examples. I don't know where to stop. Bhagat Kabir ji, it was his daughter's wedding. And some people, they were jealous of Bhagat Kabir ji, so what did they do? Because at those times when there's weddings and stuff, you invite people over and you invite people from the village over to have langar